what happens at the Parliament of World Religions, the world's leaders from all over the world, they come in and they share what the main issues that we need to focus on spiritually in the world. So of course we've got poverty, and we've got the environment, and all the things that they agreed that were important. And Ma continued to say, well, what about AIDS? What about AIDS? And nobody would listen to her. And she got louder and louder until the Dalai Lama himself said, let Ma speak. And she got up, and that year HIV and AIDS were put on as one of the major crises in the world. So this woman was a blessing and a gift beyond anything I can express. So if you're interested, you can always go to Kashi, like the cereal, kashi.org. Go on the website. You can go on YouTube, watch videos of her. It's a good use of your time, for sure. As I segue into our next speaker, Art, I focus on the goddess today because the goddess to me represents so much. And we sang earlier, I am woman, hear me roar. And it's time, as the Dalai Lama says, the Western woman is going to be who saves the world. And I don't look at this as a male-female situation as much as the divine feminine that is in each and every one of us. And we all have it, whether you reside in a man's body or a woman's body. It's about that balance. We've been out of balance. We're moving back to center. We're moving more to the heart. And it's such a great time to be on this planet, because it is time for this feminine energy to really take hold and bring the light and the love to the world that we so deserve. And Earth Day, we of course have to honor our greatest goddess of all, Mother Earth, for her sustenance and her love and just beauty. I mean, it's just such a beautiful place to be on this Mother Earth, and I'm so grateful I'm a resident here. I think I've lived on other planets, but this is a beautiful place to be, and a beautiful place to be with everyone here. Well, I'd like to invite Art Blue up here, and Art is many of you here at Namaste, or all of you that come to Namaste, know this awesome dude. He's so sweet. He is he's a servant. He's a light. He sings. He's an artist. He makes a lot of money for us at that book table. He's just an awesome, beautiful being. One of the most beautiful people I know. And his story about Kuan Yin, I'm going to let him tell you. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Art.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to open with a quote by Maya Angelou. Be better than the condition in which you were born, so you can become a rainbow in someone else's cloud. I was born into a family that had 3 generations of self-destructive alcoholics. From the ages of 8 to 16, my life at home was filled with child abuse. At the age of 14, a female guidance counselor asked me if there was anything going on at home that she should know about. No adult had ever asked me what things were like for me at home. She helped me to attend Alateen meetings, a 12-step program to help teenagers living with family alcoholism. At the age of 16, we were taken away from my mother for child abuse and neglect. In 1988, the John Bradshaw and the Family video series came out. I attended the weekly video series at a local church and started to learn how to heal my inner child. After injuring my back, one of the women from my inner child group referred me to her chiropractor. The chiropractor lived and worked in a Hindu ashram. After the issues with my back were resolved, the chiropractor suggested that I continue working with his wife, a massage therapist and energy healer. He explained that she could help me unlock the cellular memories of my child abuse. Having had no other experience other than traditional Christianity, I had no idea what to expect. During my first session, the goddess Kuan Yin appeared to me in a vision. When the session was over, she asked me if I had experienced anything during the session. How does a 30-year-old Christian man explain the Chinese Buddhist goddess he saw in his vision? I explained to her as best I could, and she told me that it was Kuan Yin, the goddess of compassion for oppressed women and children. I continued working on healing the cellular memories of my inner child at the Hindu ashram for 3 years. I did not convert to Hinduism, but my eyes were certainly opened wider. I started to study world religions and discovered that Christianity was not the only religion with sacred scriptures. In 1995, while I was sitting in a waiting room, I found a copy of New Age magazine and read about a college in Vermont where you could focus on body, mind, spirit education. For 4 years, I went there and studied the body, mind, spirit connection of fine art, and I graduated in 2000. On February 14th of 2000, I treated myself to a Kuan Yin workshop at a local New Age shop. It was finally time to let her into my life. After the workshop, I bought my first Kuan Yin statue. I slowly started to let Kuan Yin become a part of my daily spiritual practice by honoring her with candles, incense, prayers, and music. After graduating from college, I traveled around the country visiting places that I might like to live. Of all the places I had been to, I really felt that Kuan Yin was calling me to Asheville. In early 2004, I loaded up my SUV and headed for Asheville. As fate would have it, the Body, Mind, and Spirit Expo was happening at the Asheville Civic Center on my first day in Asheville. While I was at the expo, I was drawn towards this Taoist monk who was doing energy work, and I signed up for a session. As soon as I got onto his massage table, he put an acupuncture needle in my third eye. I immediately saw myself as a baby in the arms of Kuan Yin. At first, she took me under the ocean and introduced me to all the sea creatures. Then she took me into the forest and introduced me to the trees and animals. Then she took me into the universe and introduced me to all the stars and planets. Having never felt wanted by teenage parents in the 1950s, I felt like I was born again as a beloved child of the goddess Kuan Yin. In 2005, I went to China and visited all of her sacred temples. Like the Virgin of Guadalupe, Kuan Yin's image has appeared miraculously on the side of a cave on Putushan, an island in the southern sea of China. Before entering the sacred temple, I picked a wild rose as my offering to her. When I walked through the doors of the temple, I knelt before a 20-foot-tall, colorful statue of Kuan Yin. At that moment, a bee came into the temple, flying playfully around the rose. Buddhist monks looked on as the bee flew around the rose. I took it to mean that she was playfully accepting my offering. As I knelt there looking into her eyes, I wasn't sure if I was looking into her eyes or was she looking into my soul. I would like to close with this Native American quote. The longest journey you'll ever take is from your head to your heart. When I began my journey with Kuan Yin, I saw myself as a Christian. Yet in my heart, I was the beloved child of a Buddhist goddess named Kuan Yin.
I've got one of the most amazing things about this man. Well, there's many, but a story that if you would just take a few minutes to share is meeting Oprah.
Oh, okay.
You mind?
No, I don't mind.
It's an awesome story.
Yes.
How many people in here have met Oprah? Okay, so Art has.
Well, I knew this friend who was a therapist and author of a book to help men heal their sexual abuse from their childhood. And I was on his email list, and one day this email comes through saying that Oprah's going to fly 200 men to her show to do a show on sexual abuse for men. And I emailed as quickly as I could because I figured thousands of men were going to apply to be on the show, and my application was accepted to be on the show. And Reggie and I were at one restaurant on vacation. The first interview came through, and I was interviewed by the man. Next day, Reggie and I were still at a different restaurant, And the second interview came through. To make a long story short, me and the executive producer became very close through phone calls and emails, and I was able to go on the show. And my therapist at the time, there was only one thing I couldn't release from my childhood. When my mom was a horrible alcoholic woman, and she would often cast me into the streets where I would have to live in abandoned buildings or wherever I could sleep. And the saddest thing I ever did is when I was 14, I would go to this pedophile's house, and for a donut or a peanut butter sandwich, I would have to have sex with this man so that I could survive on the streets. So my therapist said, you should share that story with Oprah. So I stood up and I told Oprah and Tyler Perry and the psychologist what I had done. I said, I cannot forgive my inner child for prostituting myself at that time in my life to survive on the streets. And Oprah's words back to me were so eloquent and beautiful. So were Tyler Perry's and the therapist. It was just one thing in my life I wasn't able to forgive myself for. And with the help of Oprah and being on the show and that journey that I took with them, I was finally able to forgive my child self for surviving in the streets. So.
Thank you, Art. Well, as I always say, we are so blessed here, and we're growing, and we're sharing, and we're tapping in with these Nam Talks to all the great wisdom of our community, because everybody has a message to share. And I appreciate each and every one of you here today for being here, and everyone tuned in on Facebook Live. Thank you for tuning in and spreading the good word. And anyway, it's a great day here at Namaste, and so it is. Namaste.